New York City right now, literally the meeting starts in 2 minutes. They are considering removing statues around New York City of historic figures like Christopher Columbus and George Washington because of woke-ass feelings. And this should make all of America pissed off because this is expanding to all the blue cities. Make no mistake. Now let's all get mad. This has been happening, obviously, all across the country. It's been quiet for a little while, but in the whole burn the country down phase ahead of the presidential elections in 2020, this was happening. They were pulling down historic figures, and they were saying, my feelings, because these figures who were around in the 1700s when things that they did was commonplace. Was it wrong? Perhaps. And I'm talking about owning slaves and stuff like that. Was it wrong? Yeah. Did everybody in the area do it? Yeah, pretty much. Is that an excuse? No, but erasing history will not help. Removing historical statues from public locations can have several potential dangers. And I've been thinking about this for a couple of years, and I figured I'd put it in this video. And it's going to have some consequences as well. First of all, it risks erasing a huge part of American history and heritage. These statues often represent historical figures or events that have played significant roles in shaping America's identity. Now, these figures, like I said, might have controversial or objectionable aspects of their lives, and removing these statues can obscure the complexities of history and deprive future generations of the opportunities to learn from past mistakes. And this generation needs to learn from it right now because they're eating it. They're eating that soup. They're drinking that Kool-Aid big time. And these statues are a big tool to help people learn about the real reason that we are what we are in America right now. Also, removing historic figures and statues of them is a form of censorship. It's an infringement on the freedom of expression. The government is trying to violate your rights by doing this stuff. It's important to address problems, but we don't succumb to the woke-ass mob. We don't. They're saying it's a balancing, but we don't balance the preservation of history and freedom of expression and recognition of the figures, the people, the men and women who were instrumental in creating the longest running experiment in this world, and that is the United States of America with individual liberty. We don't balance that with the demands of the woke-ass mob. And like I said, it is now 10:01. This is being considered right now. Here's a picture of the actual item that is being discussed in the meeting that just started. And let's look at the summary. It says this bill would require the Public Design Commission, a bunch of woke-ass people, to publish a plan to remove works of art on city property that depict a person who owned enslaved persons or directly benefited economically from slavery, or who participated in systemic crimes against indigenous peoples or other crimes against humanity. If the PDC determines a work of art depicts a person who fits these criteria and decides not to remove the work of art, PDC would be required to include in the plan steps it would take to install an explanatory plaque next to the work of art. This bill would also require the Department of Transportation to consult with the Department of Education to install plaques on sidewalks or on other public spaces adjacent to schools that are named after a person that fits such criteria. So even if they don't remove the statue of George Washington, they want to put a woke-ass plaque next to it to explain all of the bad things he did. Maybe if we went back to teaching all of the heroic and historic things that these folks did, like George Washington, was he a perfect person? No. And I get feedback whenever I post a quote from George Washington. And if you only look at the bad things because it makes you feel better to bitch and moan, you're missing everything, because George Washington, we'll just use that example. If it weren't for him, the Continental Army wouldn't have been what the Continental Army was, especially during the winter when they were freezing to death and starving to death. So know your history. Don't believe the woke bullshit. And this, I'm sorry, I got to get off my soapbox, but this pisses me off. If you live in New York, Do what you got to do to rattle the cages there. Stop this from happening, because taking down statues of the men or women who were instrumental to this country, and there are some slave folks who fought for our freedom, that fought the British. If you're missing all that, you don't know what this country is, and you're the reason it's crumbling. Let me know what you think about this down below. Sorry about the soliloquy, but it just pissed me off when I read this article that's being discussed right now. I'll have a link down below if you want it as well. Till we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a gun to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. Guys and gals, this is Guns and Gadgets. I bring you all of the Second Amendment news, no matter where it happens, even in the scum hole of New York City, where it's being destroyed by Democrats. They're a safe haven, a sanctuary city, but now that they're getting all of the the illegal aliens sent there, they don't want them anymore. And if you don't know that, you probably should pay attention to that, because that's the reason they want these statues taken down. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.